She had everything: wealth, power, influence. But despite all her success, Eleanor Hayes lived every day with a quiet, unrelenting ache. Her daughter Ava had vanished 22 years ago. One moment, a toddler giggling in her crib, the next, gone. Taken during a moment of chaos. No note. No trace. No demand. Just silence. Eleanor searched relentlessly. She hired the best investigators money could buy, offered million-dollar rewards, even took part in national televised pleas. Years passed. Leads dried up. The world moved on. But she never did. On a chilly Thursday afternoon, Eleanor's private jet was grounded by unexpected fog. Frustrated but composed, she instructed her driver to take her somewhere quiet for lunch. Anywhere local, she said. I just need a moment away from everything. They pulled into a small roadside diner on the edge of a town she didn't even know the name of. She stepped in, wrapped in an elegant cashmere coat, sunglasses shielding tired eyes. The place was humble, worn, but welcoming. The kind of place where regulars drank the same coffee in the same booth every day. It was the last place anyone would expect a woman like her to be. And yet, it was exactly where she needed to be. Be right with you, a soft voice called from behind the counter. Eleanor turned. A young woman, perhaps 23 or 24, approached with a notepad. She wore a faded pink waitress uniform, her dark curls tied back, her eyes alert but weary. There was something familiar, too familiar. Coffee to start? The girl asked. Eleanor stared a moment too long. Yes, thank you. The girl smiled politely and moved away. Eleanor couldn't take her eyes off her. There was something in her posture, the curve of her smile. But more than that, it was the necklace. A tiny locket. The same one Eleanor had given Ava the night before she disappeared. It couldn't be. Could it? She felt her breath catch. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the cup. It couldn't be. That locket had been custom-made. Only one existed. The girl returned. Here you go, cream or sugar? Eleanor managed a nod. Both, please. Then quietly, your necklace. It's beautiful. Oh, thank you, the girl said, instinctively touching it. It was given to me when I was a baby. My foster mom said they found me wearing it. I've never taken it off. Eleanor's heart thundered in her chest. What's your name, dear? The girl hesitated. They call me Lily. But my foster records say my original name was Ava. Everything in Eleanor's world froze. She barely managed to keep her composure. I'm sorry, may I ask something personal? She said gently. Do you know anything about your birth parents? Lily Ava shook her head. Not really. I was found outside a hospital with no documents. Just this locket. Every few years I tried to search, but nothing came up. Honestly, I gave up. I figured whoever they were didn't want me. Eleanor nearly broke. That's not true, she said, her voice cracking. Sometimes, the world takes people from each other. Not by choice. There was a long pause. Lily looked at her, really looked at her now. Why do you ask? Eleanor steadied herself. Because I think I knew someone who wore a locket just like that. A very long time ago. Lily's brow furrowed. You're serious? Eleanor nodded, her eyes misted. I'm more serious than I've ever been. Silence hung in the air. In the background, dishes clattered, and someone laughed at the far end of the diner. But at that table, time stood still. Lily took a shaky breath. Do you think you might know who I am? Eleanor reached into her purse and pulled out an old photograph. It was faded, creased from being held too many times. A woman holding a toddler, both smiling under a tree. She slid it across the table. Lily stared at it. That's me, she whispered. That's me. I know that face, that baby. Eleanor nodded slowly. Yes. And that woman holding you. Lily's lips trembled. Is you. A sob escaped before she could hold it back. Lily stood up, her body shaking, and Eleanor did too. They embraced, right there in the middle of the diner. For a moment there were no titles. No billionaire. No waitress. Just a mother and daughter finally reunited. Customers watched in quiet awe. A few smiled. One woman wiped away a tear. It should have been the ending. But it wasn't. Because what Eleanor didn't know, what Lily had never told anyone, was what had happened in those missing years. The truth wasn't just heartbreaking. It was horrifying. Lily hadn't been simply abandoned or lost. She had been taken. Stolen. And not by a stranger. She didn't say it immediately. Not when they sat together afterward, still trembling, still wrapping their minds around the miracle that had just occurred. Eleanor had so many questions. Where had she been all these years? Who had taken care of her? Why had no one come forward? Lily smiled softly and said she'd explain everything, but not here. Not today. They exchanged numbers. And Eleanor promised to return the next morning, with a car, a private investigator, even a DNA test if needed. But in her heart she already knew. She had found her daughter. That night, Lily sat alone in her tiny apartment above the diner, staring at the ceiling, her fingers curled tightly around the old locket. She should have felt joy, relief, closure. But instead a storm brewed inside her. Because the woman who raised her, the one she called Aunt Jean, had once told her something on a drunken night. Something that never made sense until now. You weren't supposed to be ours, she had slurred. We took you. She had everything. We had nothing. And you were a gift we didn't deserve. At the time, Lily was too young to understand. But now it all clicked. The locked doors. The fake documents. The fear in Jean's eyes whenever strangers asked questions. The constant moving from town to town. They had stolen her from a hospital parking lot. Raised her as their own out of some twisted mix of envy and desperation. And now the truth was out. The next morning, Eleanor returned to the diner with a limousine and a team of security. She looked like someone reborn. But Lily, she was gone. The manager said she hadn't shown up for her shift. No word. No note. Eleanor panicked. She called the number Lily gave her. It went straight to voicemail. Hours passed. Then a full day. The media began to get wind of it. Rumors circulated. Billionaire finds long-lost daughter, then loses her again. But Eleanor didn't care about headlines. She cared about Ava. 3 days later, Eleanor received a letter. Handwritten. It said, "I'm sorry I left. I needed time. I'm not angry at you. But I have to make peace with the life I lived and the one I lost. I spent my whole life wondering where I came from. Now that I know, it's like I'm torn in two. You're my mother. I believe that now. I feel it. But I also can't erase the pain and confusion I've carried all these years. Let me come to you when I'm ready. I promise I will. Love, Ava." Eleanor cried for hours. But this time her tears were different. They were filled with hope. She kept the letter in a silver frame on her nightstand. Every morning she read it. And every night she whispered, "Come home soon." Weeks passed. Then months. Until one spring morning, as the sun lit up the marble steps of Eleanor's estate, the front gate opened. A taxi pulled in. Slowly. From it stepped a young woman with dark curls, a small duffel bag and a locket around her neck. She walked up to the door, took a breath and knocked. The door opened. No words were needed. Eleanor reached out and pulled her into her arms. This time Ava didn't let go. Now they had each other. Not as billionaire and waitress, but as mother and daughter, finally and forever. And if this story touched you, if it reminded you of the power of never giving up hope, consider subscribing to our channel. Because sometimes, the stories that matter most are the ones that remind us that love always finds its way home.